Oh, well, good morning, friends, family, colleagues, former colleagues, uh, supportive strangers, and those who just happened to stumble in here by accident. Uh, if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. If not, welcome back. It's always great to see everyone and have a good support system here. Uh, and as always, allergies, right? So um, let's just start with, well, I'm not even sure where to start. There's a lot to talk about today. So I guess um, we'll get some housekeeping out of the way per usual. If you like the video or stream, click the like. If you want to share, if you know someone who might find value in what we're talking about here, please share. Subscribe. Click the little bell to enable notifications if you want to be notified when I go live again or new video posts. And I mean, that's it. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. Please be respectful in the comment section below. But I am not monetized in any way at this time. I do not have sponsorships, channel merchandise, memberships. I don't have any ad revenue, none of it. So the best way to support my channel is basic engagement. While we're live, participate in the chat. If you're in the replay group, leave comments. And, as always, just be respectful. Abuse will not be tolerated towards me or other commenters. So that said, let's talk about it. Today, day number 93, or what I am calling my non-iversary. Today would be my 20-year anniversary at my job if I had not been laid off in July. So it's a little bit bittersweet for me today. I miss my coworkers. I miss what used to be a positive and relatively upbeat work environment. I'm really enjoying some time off to just relax and and do, take care of things. Get phone calls made, get projects done around the house, work on my tea and spice business, hobby business. Not really making any money, but it occupies some time and gives me a little bit of a sense of fulfillment. So I'm going to call that a win. I was really looking forward to my 20-year anniversary. Since that is not happening today, there's always potential that I can go back and make up the missed time and still reach that 20-year mark with a delayed date. But, we just never know, right? I may end up being back there. I may not. So I'm acknowledging nothing's a guarantee, but keeping my mind open to the possibilities. So this week has been really interesting in the job search arena. So Tuesday, I actually had 2 interviews. The first one was for a job that I might really like to have. It was for a small staffing agency, and I actually met via ZipRecruiter's online hiring events. I was unusual. For the second time, this was amazing. I was first or second to meet with the hiring manager, who was also the business owner. Now, he was looking for someone to help build his staffing agency and handle onboarding of clients and help with general day-to-day running of the office. And it sounded like it would be a great fit for me. The biggest downside of it is it would be on site with close to an hour drive. But for the right job, and this could be, I would be willing to make that drive. He did ask me about my location, and I let him know, yes, I'm rural. Yes, remote would be preferred, because he asked if I was looking for remote. I said that remote would be preferred, but for the right job, I'm willing to go to make the drive. Because my only holdback would be the distance. And I'm willing to make the drive to grow. I expressed my excitement in a new opportunity and making a shift in my career direction. The whole conversation went really well. I have not heard back from him yet. Like the other events that I've been able to get face-to-face with someone, I'm hopeful, but I'm not expecting to hear back. He did say that he would be in touch and schedule an actual formal interview if if he wanted to move forward. But he told me straight up he had 110 applicants for the position, a lot of people to consider for the role. So I am personally not holding my breath, just simply because the number of applicants, and I was so early in the process that there's a lot of time to forget me when meeting with so many others after me. That said, still hopeful. I haven't received a rejection letter, so we're still in the positive on this one. The second interview I had on Tuesday, another insurance company that only pays with no base pay, only pays based on the number of policies sold. And there was a recruiting element. They didn't really emphasize it heavily, but it did get mentioned. And one aspect of that was making money on the policies sold by anyone that you bring into the company. So I think we all know what that means. I did talk it over at home. We don't think it was a good fit for me or that I would be a good fit for the company. I'm not sure what the company thinks at this point. And I may or may not ever know. So that one I'm definitely not counting on. I plus the licensing was at your own expense and you had to buy leads. So they weren't even warm transferred to you or provided by the company as as just part of the job, like most account manager jobs or customer service jobs might be. And it was listed as a customer service job, not a sales job. So the fact that it's commission only based on the number of policies sold, the fact that there's no actual no guaranteed pay, no benefits. It really seemed to me like another multi-level marketing. So I'm hoping that I can just move on from that one. But yesterday, I went to a job fair and I was not going to go. I'd actually forgotten about it, but I was sitting in my office thinking, I wonder when the next job fair is. I remember seeing one that said online hiring opportunities or on-site job offers. When is that? Maybe I'll go check it out. Well, it was yesterday. I looked at it. Oh, this is happening today. So, of course, I got dressed up for the job fair, got my stuff together, and I went. I'm glad I did. So, my job fair experience has been kind of lukewarm at best. Yesterday's was probably the best one I've attended so far, and I'm glad I went. There actually was a job, a little bit of a step backwards for me, but I'm going to pursue it anyway. It was for a customer service job. They were offering interviews basically right then. They're like, go around the corner to our local office. We can interview you today, and you will know before you leave the building if you have a job or not. And then we discussed the remote options. And he was very clear that that particular job they were hiring for was on site. But he did clue me in and let me know that next week they'll be hiring for a remote position. So we put me on the calendar for an interview on Tuesday. Remote pays slightly less. The pay wasn't great in the first place. Max pay for the on-site was, I think it was like $17 to $18.50. The remote position, they said, is 50 cents less. So the max would be 18. Not great, but manageable while I continued to look for something a little more a little more of a fit for my resume. So I did go ahead and accept the interview for Tuesday because it is still a job, and we all know it's easier to get a job if you have a job. And who knows what internal opportunities there might be. So I'm willing to explore it and see what happens. Then I came across another job that I would love. It's it's a small HR company that does outsourced HR duties. So they handle payroll, benefits, etc. For other businesses. They were hiring 2 positions. One is like a payroll specialist. Not my thing. But they're also hiring, and how did she call it, an implementation specialist. That's what it was. Basically, being the intake person. So when a company signs on for their services, that job takes all of the employees' information and gets it in the system. Data entry, essentially. Very much my speed. I would have no issues doing that. The pay is fair. The role is hybrid. She said the first 90 days you have to be on site, but after that, you can work in a hybrid model. I did not get clarification on what the hybrid model meant. How many days a week, or if it's, a couple days a month. I did not get clarification on that. I'm not sure I care. I mean, I would care if I took the job, and, obviously it's important information to have, but it would not be a deal breaker. I would do the job in a hybrid model for the pay that they were offering. No question. So I did, when I got home, I did put in my application to her company. And then I reached out to her on LinkedIn and sent a connection request, and also sent her a message letting her know that I had spoken with her at the event and that I had applied for the position. So hopefully that got her attention, and maybe she'll remember me. I did have a conversation with her, in person, asked a lot of questions, and we seem to have a pretty good rapport. So I'm hoping she remembers me and that I will get a call back, because out of all of the job opportunities from this week, that is the one that would truly be the best fit in terms of work duties, pay, work location, all things considered. So that one I'm really hoping for. So then after the job fair, one more thing. The reservation police department actually was there again. The same positions I had looked at before, so I was able to get some clarification. Hi, Blooming Artist. So great to see you. I'm glad you were able to make it to this live. So the indigenous community law enforcement jobs, the crime scene investigator position was still being hired. The evidence management was still being hired. I think they were also still hiring an executive assistant. And the things that were holding me back before, I think I mentioned the tribal driving permit, and I wasn't sure how to get my driving record for that. So I was able to get a lot of clarification by speaking with the officers on site yesterday. And I am actually going to um, go get that driving record. Loose hair. Going to go get my driving record and apply for one or more of those positions. So, Blooming Artist, thank you. Thank you. I wasn't sure I about how I looked. I didn't sleep well, so I think I have some dark circles. But as far as the police officer jobs, the jobs itself is not that I would be applying for would not be as a sworn police officer. The job I would be doing if I got hired would just be sitting in the evidence room at the police station. And when the officers bring in evidence that has to get stored for their investigation or court, I would check that in and make sure the evidence was properly stored and collect evidence, make sure it's signed in and out properly to preserve the chain of custody for that evidence. So it's not really a security guard. It's not like that. Maybe it's like a security guard for evidence rather than like protecting the building or a person. It would just be managing evidence as it comes in and out, making sure it's signed in and out properly and stored in the proper location, that it's available when needed for court, that kind of thing. That I would not mind doing. I think I'd be okay with it. The other position that I'm most interested in, and my family is not thrilled about this, is crime scene investigation. So that would be when something happens, I go to the crime scene, dust for fingerprints, collect hairs and fiber evidence, take photographs of the scene, collect, like if there's blood stains or semen stains or things like that are part of the crime, that were part of the crime, then I would collect that kind of thing. Yeah, like they do on a lot of the true crime shows where they show people go out and they dust for fingerprints, they take fabric samples from bedding or clothing, and make sure all of that is properly stored and identified and labeled and that kind of thing. I think I might enjoy that. My guys don't think so. They say I'm too squeamish and that it would be and maybe even a little emotional. I think I could take a clinical approach if I know that's my job and I know that I'm walking into a traumatic situation. I think I could be mentally prepared to go in and take a clinical approach and just get the evidence. I'm sure it would. I have seen a lot of dead bodies. I mean, I've lost so many loved ones, uh, family members, pets. I know what they look like. I know what to expect. I think it could be a little tough if it was a particularly gruesome scene. If it was like a murder or something, that might be a little hard. But the truth is, that's the medical examiner that handles the body. The crime scene investigators, they handle the other physical evidence. Like I said, collecting, uh, collecting fingerprints, collecting hair samples, fiber samples, anything DNA, um, that you might have to swab for DNA, that kind of thing. I think honestly, the body is probably may not even be there by the time the investigators get there, depending on when the medical examiner shows up. So that may or may not be a thing. It actually does not take years of school to do that job. They train. I specifically said, is there any kind of specific certification you have to have? They told me no, they will train. Now, there are certifications you can get if you choose to, but some courses can take as little as, I think, 2 to 4 weeks and may cost as little as, maybe $200 to $500 to take. But this particular office does not require any of that. They would train. They would train. They would help me get my tribal driving permit. They would train me on their policies and procedures for evidence collection. And not all crimes are dead bodies, right? Not all crimes are murders. There are a lot of other kinds of crime. There's robberies, there's burglaries, there's, home invasions, um, a lot of different types of crime that are not necessarily as violent. So I'm not 100% sure that would be a deal breaker for me, because crime scene investigators don't only get called out for murders. So let me do a quick little research here. How many murders this year? Okay, so it doesn't give me any specific details. How about for how many murders in 2024? So for perspective, I just looked it up. That particular Indigenous community only shows 2 murders for 2024. That's all of last year. So the job would be very much other things. I think I could handle that. So I do think it's great that they offer that kind of training. I think I'm definitely going to apply for those jobs today because I'm interested, and it would be something completely different from anything I've ever done. So I don't have to worry about being viewed as overqualified or not having had the right title to match my qualifications. I So I am a little bit excited about that. So then, so I gathered all their information, took notes, made made notes of what I need to do. The biggest thing is I have to go get my um, driving record for 39 months from the state, and I can do that online. They even clarified that for me, so um, I'm kind of excited about at least exploring that opportunity. And then this really amazing thing happened as I was leaving. I left the job fair. I was headed to my car, and this really sweet, beautiful woman got my attention and asked how the job fair went for me, if I had anything positive, um, come from it. And I told her that I had. It was the best one I had been to, excuse me, since I'd started going to the job fairs. And we struck up a little conversation. She said that it didn't go well for her. And we kind of shared, a little back and forth about our experience with the job fairs and looking for work. And then we ended up going and having coffee together. And I feel like I made a new friend. And so I did share with her that I have my YouTube channel, and I really hope that my new friend comes. I'm not going to give names because I don't do names without consent. Um, but this new friend and I had a very lovely conversation. And she shared with me a business plan that she has for a project on the reservation where she lives. And I was so inspired and excited by her business plan. And so we've agreed to keep in touch and, share job prospects and continue to support each other through this process. So I really hope that my new friend um, does join our community on my channel because I really feel like she would be a great fit for our wonderful, sweet, supportive community. And even if she doesn't, the very worst thing is I have a new friend. And it was just refreshing. I think she used that same word as well. Like, it was just nice to have someone to talk to that's going through the same issues with the process and having the same struggles, and who understands the overqualified but not qualified. And I hope she doesn't mind. She actually shared with me an experience that I have experienced myself and other friends have as well. And that is where the resume is overqualified and it's not a perfect match for an entry level job. And she had applied and interviewed, and they directly told her, you wouldn't be happy here. Your background is too different from what we're doing. You wouldn't be happy here. Now, I haven't been directly told that, but I have gotten that vibe. And I personally get a little frustrated with the idea that the employer is going to tell you that, because no, it may not be my first career choice, but you don't know if I'm going to be happy here or not. I don't know if I'm going to be happy here until I try it. And sometimes, sometimes sometimes you can get a feel that, okay, this job is going to be boring, or I really don't care for the culture in this office. And so those things you might be able to know for sure. But those are things we can tell ourselves. I don't think that's a decision an employer should make for us. And it, the whole overqualified thing is a challenge. I have 20 plus, well, more than 20. I have, if you include all my jobs going back to when I was in high school, I have over 30 years in customer service or customer service leadership from a variety of different business models. And if they're wanting to hire somebody for $17 an hour entry level that they think is going to stay around a while, I understand why my experience might be more than what they're looking for. And these days, there's another trick to the term overqualified, because sometimes they use it to hide ageism. Sometimes they say you're overqualified as a way of saying you're too old, you don't fit the young and hip vibe that we want our employees to have. I think it's a cop-out. I think it's tragic that some employers are choosing a vibe over experience and expertise. But it is a thing that is also happening. So overqualified also means a number of different things. It can mean that you have way more experience and they do truly think that you'll be bored, or or that you're not going to stick around because you'll find another job. Yeah, employers do hire younger people. But it's crazy because you say that, and I agree that they will hire younger people because they don't want to hire older people. But then they turn around and complain about those younger people. They complain about their lack of work ethic, their lack of experience, their lack of critical thinking. But that's who they choose to hire. It's like, if you want common sense, experience, and loyalty, hire the older person with a strong work history. But, all we can do is try to tell them why we are the best person for the job when we get in front of a human being in an interview. Our resume our resume will tell them, but we have to be careful because the resume also gives away our age. So that's another trick that we have to maneuver through with updating the resume. How do I get all my years of experience and expertise on here without making myself sound old and outdated? And that's a challenge. One thing I have found is helpful is getting current certifications in different things. Like right now I'm working on a data analytics certification. I can do data analytics. It's been part of my job for years. Trying to sell that to an employer, But if I have a brand new, fresh certification, it's showing that I'm staying up to date with my knowledge and skills. So that is also a huge benefit. And, that is something, that the younger people do have is they are fresh out of school. Their knowledge is current and up to date. And some of them, you are correct. Some of them call out sick a lot. Some just show up late or just put in minimum effort when they are on the job. And sometimes people have to learn the hard way. And by the time they've learned the hard way, they're a little bit older, more seasoned, better qualified for the position. And then they're overqualified. It's just a vicious cycle. So that is what I've been doing is I'm working. I just obtained a quality certification for ISO 9001. It's a quality management. It's an overall total quality management system. And I'm going to finish this data analytics. But I'm also going, when I finish this one, I'm going to get certified in Lean Six Sigma. And that is an error reduction program. It's a quality program or quality management system that focuses on streamlining processes and minimizing errors and mistakes. So there is an issue. I see you're talking about, maybe not working for the last 5 years. And that also is a red flag to employers. If you have a huge gap between jobs, they want to know why. Why couldn't you get a job during that time? And sometimes it's a choice. Sometimes it's a lifestyle choice. It's okay, well, I could afford to take the time off. I had a life situation that allowed for it. But when that's the situation, you have to frame it as a positive. not as I couldn't find work. You have to frame it as something positive. I was in a position I could afford to take an extended period of time off. During that time, I did volunteer work. I increased my education. I got certified in analytics or quality assurance or business management or whatever. And told him if he's not allowed to give him what? Okay. My husband works. Someone wanted to know about someone else, but my husband told him he's not allowed to give. That's absolutely right. There are a lot of jobs that require confidentiality. There are a lot of jobs that require that are data sensitive. If you work in healthcare or mental health care, pharmaceuticals, anything, HR, there's HIPAA requirements. There are laws about what you can and cannot share. And so there are legal implications, but there's ethical implications too. An employer or a coworker should not just be giving out information about someone else. Even if they're allowed to, they shouldn't do it without their permission. I mean, that's just good old-fashioned ethics. There are also jobs like where I worked, you're dealing with confidential information, credit card numbers, personal contact information, home addresses. We can't give that information out. And we shouldn't. And there are a lot of jobs that require that. And even in my job with my most recent employer, we had a non-disclosure agreement, and it wasn't about customer information. It was about proprietary information. We were not allowed to talk about what happened in our company meetings. We were not allowed to talk about product launches before they were public. We were not allowed to talk about the company's finances until they had made a public announcement. We were not allowed to talk about the software we were using or the software that we developed, because that was company's private information. We also, I also have a non-compete clause. So being laid off, I cannot go work for a direct competitor for 2 years. That means any other company that does what my company did, which was digital advertising in a specific industry, I'm not allowed to mention the company by name and talk about what they do or don't do in terms of providing that information. I am not allowed to share any processes or procedures that I learned working for the company, or what the way our software worked, or anything like that. I can guide people through how to use it, but I cannot talk about anything I learned internally about how the algorithms work, or anything like that outside the scope of what we were allowed to say in the course of our duties. And a lot of jobs have that kind of thing too. And I think sometimes younger people do not understand the confidentiality portion, the data protection. Some younger people do that, those that are a little more tech savvy, I think do, because data protection is actually a big part of the tech industry right now. And yes, some people will get mad when they can't get the information from you they want. And that is where good customer service skills come in. Because as the customer facing representative, regardless of what your title is, if you are customer facing, part of that job is to help that person understand in a very polite and courteous way that there are limitations on what you can tell them. And some people don't like that. Other people understand right away. But it is not your job. It can even be a violation of the law to share certain information. And that is not, customer service isn't telling your customer something about this other person. That's not customer service. That's invasion. Customer service is when you explain to them, due to HIPAA laws, due to confidentiality, I'm not able to share that information with you. If someone was asking for this about you, would you want me to share that with a third party that you don't know? Probably not. That is customer service. Politely explaining to them and helping them to understand why you can't give them what they're asking for. And I actually covered this in one of my customer service videos, because sometimes you just simply cannot give them what they want because it is against the law. It is against your company policy. It is a violation of a confidentiality agreement. It could be that you simply don't have that information. The customer is not always right because they do not have the right or authority to demand that you give them information that is confidential and private. They're just simply not entitled to that information. And that, again, is where good customer service skills come in. Because as the customer facing person, you have to be able to explain it to them that, no, I'm sorry. I understand why you want or need this information, but I am not able to give it to you. I understand. I'm sorry that I can't give you what you want, but I can't. And here is why. And if it was you, if somebody was asking for information about you, would you be comfortable with me giving someone else the same information you're asking for? And many times the answer will be no. So I remember a situation where in a role I had with my company, Exactly. You wouldn't want anyone to know about you. So, how does that translate? If you want to know about somebody else, it only makes sense that if you don't want someone to have that information about you, that you are not getting that information about someone else. I remember a situation where I was on a same employer, but my role was I processed both financial and technical requests for our sales teams. So they would want product canceled or extended or issue a credit to the customer. And it would be my job to make that happen. So another part of my job was to do backup and overflow to help our retention team. So the retention team's job is basically to keep customers from canceling and try to retain as much revenue for the company as they can. So part of my job was to help them. And I had one situation where, keep in mind, this is business to business. So my customers were quite often small independent business owners or independent contractors. So sometimes they would call and ask to cancel. Sometimes they would have a spouse or an assistant or an administrator call to make that request on their behalf. So I would get an assistant would call and say, "Hey, I'm calling for this person. They want to cancel their services." And I would have to say, "I cannot cancel for you. I have to speak with the person directly." "But why? I've been their assistant for 15 years. This is ridiculous." I'm like, I had to explain to this person, but please try to understand. There are unscrupulous people out there. You say you're this person's assistant. And I do, in fact, see notes here on the account with your name, and that's fine. But if it was your account, would you want someone else to be able to call and cancel your account without us speaking to you? What happened if you fired that person and they're just trying to cause trouble for you? What happens if it was your husband and you're in the middle of a divorce and now they're trying to cancel your account? Should I cancel it for them? I'm going to guess the answer is no. Yeah, but we're not talking about friends. We're talking about in a business situation, in a professional working environment. Sure, if it's a friend, uh, you might not mind if one friend shares your a piece of information with another friend. But in a business environment, that's completely inappropriate. I'm not going to give a customer information about my coworker. I'm not going to give another coworker information about a different coworker. That's not appropriate. And people expect that kind of thing, and it is not ethical, especially in a data sensitive environment. And so I actually had to explain it to this person in that way. Like, I'm sorry, I cannot cancel this for you. but I can't because this is not your account. This is someone else's account. And we cannot risk canceling their account without their permission. And yes, the assistant was upset. But laws are laws, policies are policies. Data protection is data protection. Coworkers can be your friends. It still doesn't make it appropriate to share information about them in the workplace. And in some cases, that's actually another violation of the law. Like where I worked. So last year when I had my surgery, I called my boss from the emergency room and told her, I'm staying overnight. I'm having surgery in the morning. I had to specifically give her permission to tell my teammates. She is legally not allowed to tell other employees about my health condition without my explicit consent. That's just not allowed. It doesn't matter if they're my friends. It doesn't matter if we've worked together for 20 years. That is a violation and could land her in very big trouble. Now, I am close enough with those particular coworkers. I let them know myself. Hey, coworker, feel free to share this with the team or feel free to share this with any of our other coworkers. But I equally could say, only share this with this person and that person. But there's a lot of really important things to keep in mind in a workplace. And they might be your work friends. They also might be competing with you for a position. You might want the same job and you're competing for the same promotion. So there's still a conflict of interest with oversharing information. So, that's something that we all have to be mindful about. And we have to remember that some of our younger coworkers don't have the work experience behind them to be able to evaluate what is appropriate against what isn't. Anyway, I've been on here for an hour, and so I am starting to lose my voice. So I am going to close it up. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been a great conversation today. And I would love to keep it going, but now I have to go. I have to go take an allergy pill and do something about my throat so I can get my voice back a little bit. I can't wait to share with you whatever comes of these interviews and how things go next week on Tuesday. I hope you have a fantastic day. Stay blessed, stay authentic, and stay connected. I will see you next time.